Why do lawyers always stand behind these walls of books? And they all look the same. They're not like fancy books or colored books. They're just books. Well, the answer is very interesting. So every time courts are responsible for interpreting the law. Every time a court interprets the law in a decision, in a case, it's responsible for continuing to follow that decision. So courts have to be consistent over the years. That's what makes really good lawyers, because they can go back and say, oh, well, this court on this case made a similar decision that applies to my case, and therefore it's a good decision, and you have to follow it. And then the judges might agree or disagree. So defense lawyers, plaintiff lawyers, judges, clerks, everybody's looking back at these cases. So every time a case comes out, it gets published. So these are from the 1990s. They go all the way to present day. And then we've got tons of these shelves. So these are from the 1916, 1920. These books are over 100 years old. And these are Canadian cases, but there's also American courts do the same thing, British courts do the same thing, and some of the Canadian cases go back to when before Canada was a country, back in Britain. So these are 1942, 1948. Some of these are before we even had calendars. No, but this is from, it's called Upper Canada. This is before Canada was a country. Upper Canada Queen's Bench reports, and then appeal. So these are from 1881, 1865. These have dates from a weird British calendar, but every volume comes out with cases, and appeals courts have cases, and Supreme Courts have cases, and then there's also like various regulatory agencies. So here's agencies from like the Workers' Compensation Board and the Liquor Control Board. So there's case after case after case after case. And so if we open a book, and you can find, oh, here's a case. So this was a case from a bank, let's say. So La Mega Corp versus Cosica Resources. So somebody sued somebody else, and then so now these reports, they'll publish not only what the court decided. So the court says, oh, these are the facts of the case, and here's why the decision should be XYZ. But now there's also a summary, which the judge doesn't write, but the publisher of the book writes this quick summary of the decision, and then some ideas of what kind of cases this applies to. So in this case applies to conduct of parties prolonging litigation. So who should pay for the cost of the lawyers if the case dragged on for a while, and plaintiff obtaining numerous orders. So there's a lot of paperwork in this case, and some people ran away from the area where the court had jurisdiction. So if you've got a case, let's say, that's dragging on, so in this case dragged on for 6 years, and then the court decided, oh, you dragged on the case, you should pay the other party damages for dragging it on. So now if you've got a similar case, you might go back here and say, see, in La Mega versus Cosica, and you'd cite the number and say, oh, in this case, the court said that I should be paid because the case dragged on, and they'll say, oh, you're right. So all kinds of these cases don't necessarily have anything to do with each other. Here's a case on somebody arguing about the land subdivision. Here's a case about a GM truck dealership. So if you're like a boring person, you might like sit and read through these. So here, somebody bought a truck from another guy. So even though the dollar amount might not be high in this case, the principles matter just the same. and you can use them. But now it's like, oh, okay, so I've got thousands and thousands of these now. I can't possibly read and remember every single book. That's crazy. So what happens is they came up with an index. So the index gets published every year, and so the index gets updated with all the cases by name, but then also by ideas. So if I want to think about, so if I have an idea, let's say it's an insurance case, I would flip to insurance, and then I could see all the different types, all the different cases that relate to insurance. And then